Hello everyone and welcome back to another Mirror Dungeon solo video. Today we'll be using the new index proxy Don Quixote. She, much like Index Faust, entirely revolves around following the prescripts she receives in order to grow stronger over the course of a battle. However, unlike Index Faust, she gains so much more than just simple damage buffs from doing this. The most notable thing she gains out of all of them is her ability to manifest the E.G.O of the prescript, which effectively translates into empowering all of her skills and changing their damage type from blunt to slash damage. In order for her to actually manifest E.G.O though, she needs to be in her unlock state and have at least 25 sanity. Although, if it's the first time she's manifested it in a fight, the sanity requirement is unnecessary. How she enters her unlock state though is simply by following the prescripts. Just like Faust, she gains a new prescript every time she gains at least 3 Grace of the Prescript. Normally you can only gain 1 of these for fulfilling the prescript, but if you are specifically attacking an enemy who is the prescript's target while fulfilling the prescript, you gain 3 and are instantly rewarded with another prescript. For Don Quixote, every time she does this, she also increases her unlock state by 1, and because she only needs to be in unlock state 1 in order to manifest E.G.O, she can very easily manifest it on turn 2 in every single focus encounter. And even in non-focused encounters, when there is no way for you to consistently target the prescript's target, she can still always manifest it on turn 2 because she quite literally cheats the prescripts. Instead of following them, she can simply use her counter skill instead, which will automatically bump her up into the next unlock level and give her the remaining Grace of the Prescript she needs in order to do that. The only downside to doing this is that for every Grace of the Prescript gained this way, she also gains 5 Karmic Consequence, up to a maximum of 15. Karmic Consequence is a dangerous status effect if you let it get out of control, as if you somehow manage to get it to its max size of 100, you will also gain a permanent 5 fragile and 10 defense level reduction. Of course, reaching that level is basically impossible for this identity, as even if you only used her defense skill to jump all the way to her max unlock level, she would cap out at 60 Karmic Consequence. Because while she only gains 15 from the defense skill, she also gains an extra 5 for ignoring the prescript, which would end up giving her 3 fragile and 6 defense level reduction. It's still pretty bad and not really something you want to stack up that high, but it is still worth noting that reaching the max amount of Karmic Consequences is basically impossible unless you specifically force it. Ultimately, what all of this means though is that the best way to play her is to simply follow the prescript, and if for some reason you can't, or don't want to, that is when you use her defense skill. When it comes to her 2 status effects of Poise and Sinking though, she is by and far a much better Poise identity than a Sinking one. Her biggest problem when it comes to sinking is that she has a lot of coins, which makes her particularly count negative, and what little count she does have is mostly dependent on her critting, but it's not enough to make her even count neutral with any of her skills. She has enough to technically be usable in a sinking team, considering the fact that her ability to crit isn't terrible, but she does need a lot of support in order to actually not be an active detriment in the first couple of turns. Her poise at first glance also doesn't seem the greatest, as only her skill 1 and non-enhanced skill 3 are even count neutral, making it actually quite difficult for her to build and maintain a poise stack. However, she does have one thing in her kit that saves her, and that is her Shin status effect. She only gains this when she has reached the max unlock level of 3, and it gives all of her skills 1 extra poise count. That is enough for her to consistently maintain a poise stack, the only downside of course being that she cannot gain it until at minimum turn 4. But by the simple nature of consistent critting being almost impossible early on in a fight, that time investment is really not that big of a deal. Anyway, to start the run off, we take these starter buffs and find these E.G.O gifts on the first floor of Dregs of the Manor, before making it to the Boskins, Hindley, and the Rabbits.
이건 직원들에게 유리한 상황 같아요.
Alright, hello everyone, and welcome back to another Mirror Dungeon solo video. Today we're using the Index Don Quixote, aka the Demon in Chains, because, yeah, she's literally a demon in disguise. I mean, she's got a lot of interesting things going on, like, from a lore perspective, not even from just, like, a strength perspective, which she is pretty strong. Like, I mean, her poise generation is far better than Index Faust, for example. But it's like, yeah, her entire kit and the gimmick of, you know, playing into the the whole will of the prescript. It's pretty good. It's pretty nice. Like, she is a very strong identity because of that. However, the whole concept of her, like, being able to manifest the ego, that is literally, like, it's not even her ego, you know? Because in actuality, it's like, the ego she manifests is the ego of the prescript, right? And the reason why she's capable of manifesting it is because, like, her will aligns with the will of the prescript, like, half the time, right? And so it's like, it's a very similar in concept as to how she's also, like, compatible with the Queen of Hatred's ego, right? How, like, when she's wearing that ego gear, she basically becomes the queen. And it's like, it's a very similar concept here with her manifesting the ego, where she becomes the will of the prescript. Whatever actual, literal demon from hell comes up with those prescripts, she's basically becoming it. And that's pretty neat. That is pretty neat. I do like that. Because it, like, one of the biggest, like, implications of this is that it implies that we can actually manifest the ego of people that are not us, basically. And that's significant, specifically when you're talking about, like, crossover events, right? Because for the Arknight's crossover event, right, the reason we didn't get any identities is because, you know, every identity is like, it's the characters that are living in that world, right? And it's like, none of the Limbus company cast exists in the Arknight's universe, so it's like, can't get any identities, right? Or at least that's the concept that I think they were going with. And so they just gave us egos instead, because, like, it's a way you can do it without completely screwing over the lore or whatever. But if you do it like this and have, like, an identity that manifests the ego of some other character, right? Then you could actually create a crossover identity for this game, which is pretty. It definitely opens a lot of doors, I think. And that's by far the most significant thing about this identity, in my opinion. We head into C for the next floor, where we find the Devil's Share, Temporal Brittle, the Manor-shaped music box, Thorny Path, Skeletal Crumbs, Nebulizer, Phantom Pain, and the Book of Vengeance, before making it to the boss against the King Trash Crab.
얌전히 잠들어 있어야 할 놈들까지 눈을 떠버렸나? 예측할 수 없게.
You know, the one thing that I don't particularly like about this identity is the fact that, like, it's too easy for her to manifest ego, right? Like, all she needs to do is enter Unlock State 1, which basically means she needs to reach 3 Grace of the Prescript. And that means all she needs to do in order to do it is to attack an enemy with the Prescript's target status effect with one of her marked skills, and then boom, she instantly manifests ego on turn 2, right? It's too easy. It's too easy to do that. And it's like, I don't like that, because it's like, it feels like half of her kit just doesn't really exist, you know? The whole shackled part of it. There's no reason for you to ever be in it longer than necessary. And it's such a shame, because it's like the animations in it are really, really cool. So yeah, it's like, I've been playing with this identity for quite a bit in the past day, and let me just say, my favorite way to play her is to avoid manifesting the ego as long as possible. because there's just something so entertaining about literally somebody bound in chains and shackles being able to kill everyone, you know what I mean?
내일도 꼭 불러줄게.
It's so much more entertaining for me.
세상이 평화로워지는 건 기쁜 거야.
We head into Treadwheel Sloth for the next floor, where we find the Twinkling Scrap, Clear Mirror Calm Water, Lowest Star, Melted Spring, Lithograph, and Crushed Memory, before making it to the boss against the Dream Devouring Silt Current.
무시오. 대가리에 총 맞았냐?
예측할 수 없게.
I guess if I want to talk more about, like, this Identities, like, ego state, I should probably actually try and use it more, even though I like trying to avoid it. Like, it's a fun little mini game, I think, for me, to just basically try and avoid using it as much as possible.
예측할 수 없게.
But yeah, it's like, this identity is the current, I believe, second identity that is capable of manifesting an ego like this. The other one being Philip Sinclair. But it's like,
좋아해.
honestly, I like how Philip does it a lot better.
이것 또한 마법의 빛이 속삭여주는 시련했어. 예측할 수 없게.
And it's like the main reason for that is because, like, again, it's because of her chained phase, right? Where she still has the chains. It's like, after she manifests the ego, it's basically impossible for her to lose it. I mean, she can, because if she ever, like, goes below 0 sanity, then she will revert back to the original state. But it's like, whereas Sinclair, right, he gets this constant sanity drain at the end of a turn. It's like Don Quixote doesn't get that at all. She only drains sanity with by using her skills, and that's it. So it's like, yeah, she does drain sanity by being in the ego state like Sinclair, but she drains so little of it that it basically doesn't exist, you know? And so once she's in this state, it's almost impossible for her to leave it. And it's just, I feel like the ego state should be more sanity heavy, especially because it's not her own ego, you know? So it would have been, I think it would have been a lot better if she did have a sanity drain mechanic like Sinclair. We head into Hatred and Despair for the next floor, where we find Illusory Hunt, the Sword Sharpened by Tears, and Red Order, before making it to the boss against the Knight of Despair. Here's an interesting fight. Finally, something that's actually somewhat challenging, and it's because we're quadruple fatal to the nice attacks. Yeah, I think it's fine. It's fine for us to tank it. We got enough health, probably. And it's like, this is one of the good reasons why, like, being able to manually trigger her, or with her ego state being so easily achievable. It's like, this is one of the best reasons for it. Also, hi Queenie, love you. This is you're why I visit. I love you. Anyways, what was I saying? I got distracted by her. Right, this is one of the main reasons why, like, having her ego state be so easily accessible is a good thing, because just like with Sinclair, right, when she manifests it, she cancels any stagger that she does. And since it's so much easier for her to actually enter into her ego state than Sinclair, because all she needs to do is follow the prescript instead of having high sanity, it's like, yeah, she's pretty good at it, I'd say. This right here is kind of awkward with it though, but also not really, because, like, I was gonna say, like, this is this is an awkward position to be in because there's no way for us to activate the prescript, the prescript's target, because it wants us to use a skill 3 right now, and we don't have a skill 3. But that's forgetting the fact that this identity actually has a third way to be able to trigger the prescript. And that is by using her defense skill, because if she ever uses her defense skill, she automatically goes into the next... She automatically fulfills the prescript without doing anything, you know? And so it's like, if you ever think she's gonna get staggered in a turn, you just use her defense skill, and then she automatically gets the first unlock, and then enters her E.G.O state, and cancels the stagger. So it's like, that is one of the good reasons for having it so easy.
적들이 이기고 있어. 카론, 먼저 가버릴 거야.
Well, we're dead. Try again.
원래 말이야. 뒤질 만한 상황입니다.
저금을 결국 아르카나의 스프레드에 예측할 수 없게.
Yeah, I'm not making the same mistake this time. We're actually changing our resistances. I guess technically speaking, our resistances weren't the issue in the last try. It was the sanity drain that got us, but that was because I just didn't do enough damage to the one sword and didn't kill it, so it got an extra skill off on us. Would have been fine otherwise, but yeah, I wasn't paying much attention.
엄청난 공격이었어. 기념할 만한 걸.
I was talking about her defense skill before, right? I think so. Because yeah, she can just, by using it, she can manually enter into the next state of the grace of the prescript. And that's important because it makes it so that she can actually... It makes it so that she can automatically activate her anti-stagger by entering the E.G.O state. But also it's good in situations like this where it's like the final... You're trying to get to the final unlock state, but you don't have a skill 3, or it's like the target of the prescript is a bad target that you don't want to actually attack with a skill 3, like right now where it's attached to the sword that I don't want to even touch at this point, right? So it's like, if I use a skill 3 on that, it would just be a complete waste, you know? I don't want to do that, so you just use the counter skill and she automatically goes into the next state.
운명 속에 파묻힌 그대의 이름을 걸고 나 여기서 빛을 맹세한다. 방금 전에는 굉장했다고. 베르겔 그 인간도 이걸 인정할걸? 예측할 수 없게.
The only downside to actually like using her counter skill to force you to do it, to activate the next unlock state, is that it gives you a lot of the karmic consequences. And you know, I did say it before when I was talking about in my Index Faust video, where it's like the karmic consequences normally on their own, it's just it can potentially be a very dangerous status effect, because if you get it up to the max 100 stacks, it will give you 5 fragile. But the thing is that it will never actually reach that, because you know, once you get to the max 9 Grace of the Prescripts, it becomes impossible for you to gain Karmic consequences. But this identity specifically, she gains Karmic consequences more than just the normal way of ignoring the Prescript, right? She can gain it specifically by forcing her state to go up, because every time she uses her counter skill and instead of fulfilling the Prescript, then she gains Karmic consequences equal to the amount of Grace of the Prescript that she gains from it to force her to enter the next state.
맞아. 그것은 그 짝에 갖다 써야지. 별로 어려울 것도 없잖아.
So yeah, that's a very cool way for the Karma consequences to actually be something interesting, instead of basically a non-issue the entire time. Oh wow, that didn't kill. Oops. I thought she was below the health threshold. I guess I wasn't paying much attention. Oh well, I'm sorry, Queenie.
놀만치 노른 것 같은 게 이제 싸게 치워불고 들어가자.
We head into the Infinite Procession for the next floor, where we find imposed weight, before making it to the boss against the Blood Fiend trio. Alright, here we go. Demon versus Blood Fiends. How long do I want to stay in the chains? That's the question. I could have instantly entered into demon mode, but like, that's boring, you know? I just really like playing like in the chains. What can I say? It's more fun that way. It's more fun to completely ignore the Prescript entirely. Well, not entirely, but like exclusively, because you can use it like you can do it twice, all right? You can do 2 marked skills before you have to stop, or else you enter, or else you manifest E.G.O. But as long as you don't do more than that, or attack specifically the marked enemy, then you can stay in the chains for a very long time. Pretty much forever.
감내해야 할 고통입니다.
Yeah, this fight's not that difficult because clear Maricom water exists, so it's like we can easily beat the entirety of the Blood Fiends with just at half strength, basically. I guess I'll activate it. Why not, right? Why not? We've already won. We've proven that. Like, yeah. A girl in chains is better than a bunch of Blood Fiends. Second kindred and third kindreds. Might as well go all out afterwards. Just to speed up the fight. You know what I mean? Can't even see it. Dulcinea's umbrella's blocking the entire screen. That's funny. This is the one bad thing about like her just destroying her own sanity. It's like
뭐 하려는 거지?
Yeah, we should have absolutely beat this fight in the last turn, but no,
운명적인 죽음.
we lost too much sanity and missed a bunch of coin rolls, so yeah. Took one extra turn as a result.
오늘도
Oh well.
정말 멋진 활약이었어.
We head into 4 houses in Greed for the next floor, where we find Fin of Fugality, Eldtree Snare, Recollection of a Certain Day, Greycoat, Blue Star Shard, Sundered Memory, and Lunar Memory before making it to the boss.
敵に変化が見られます。
Alright, the She family. Very cool. Kind of scary. They do a decent amount of damage. Not enough for us to be
예측할 수 없게.
too terrified, though. I mean, it's not like they're the what's he called, the
칼은 신나.
drifting swordsman or whatever. I don't remember his name. But yeah, Rupture is like, it's not as scary as Bleed because I don't know, enemies just don't really stack Rupture that well.
조금만 더 힘내자.
Specifically because it's like
제압까지 얼마 남지 않았어.
they consume it on every hit, right? And because they're enemies, it's like they have no control over like who uses what skill and when they use this skill, right? So it's like that's the main reason why Bleed is scarier than Rupture, because an enemy is 10 times more likely to kill a Rupture stack than it is to build one. Even if they are like very, even if they do have a lot of Rupture count in their kit, right?
깜짝 놀랐어요.
So it's like the only way for Rupture to truly be scary is if
홀리리 방금 뭘
the enemy you're fighting has like permanent positive Rupture support. Because yeah, most enemies with Rupture, they can't really
예측할 수 없게.
they can't really go higher than like 20 Rupture stack at sometimes. Unless they get like perfect you know, skill order RNG. Which is very rare. It's very rare for that to happen.
절대지. 해냈구나. 그대 알아서 그랬을 거야.
이것 봐. 환상체를 제압하는 건
예측할 수 없게. 정해진 운명이라네.
I still am not.
엄청난 공격이었어.
I love using this identity this way.
예측할 수 없게.
She's not that bad when she's in her blunt form, right? But it's like it's just so much more fun to use an identity like this, you know? So much more fun to see an identity that's this powerful beating you up when they're at half strength, you know? It's my favorite way to play her. I wish there were more identities like this. I did mention it in my last video when I fought Lei Hang that yeah, I had this idea where I wanted to basically beat him only in the while we were still bound and shackled, right? But it didn't work because you need to use defense skills in that fight. So it's like, but the thing is, that wasn't my original like plan, right? In fact, what I actually wanted to do was to make a whole team dedicated around the concept of like using characters that a team of characters that are like all like this, where they have like a weak state and then a very empowered state. But the problem is there's not enough identities like that. There are a couple, like you know, Philip Sinclair and even Thumb Merceau, who's they do have multiple forms. But the problem is, it's like they're kind of uncontrollable with how they transition. So it's like it's not something you can avoid very well. At least not good enough to make a whole video dedicated to it anyways. I mean, maybe I could still, but it'd be hard, to say the least. We head into LCB regular checkup for the next floor, where we find Faith and Eclipse of Scarlet Moths, before making it to the Bossigan's Hoenheim. Alright, Hoenheim. Gotta attack the... What are they? LCC? LCA? LCE. That's it. I forgot what they were called for a second there. But yeah, I gotta attack them with the index. Obviously, Hoenheim is not that difficult of a fight if you have Grey Coat and a Gloom skill, because yeah, Grey Coat alone is enough to just instantly counter his entire gimmick of, you know, reflecting the damage you deal back at him. Because it's literally it does how much damage exactly? It's like, yeah, it's stacked divided by 2%, so it goes, it's like 15% extra damage. And then Grey Coat gives 20% healing, I think it is. Where's Grey Coat? I just picked it up. There it is. Yeah, 20% healing. So it's like, yeah, there's 15, there's a 5% difference there. Makes it literally impossible for Hoenheim to kill you with his gimmick if you have a Gloom skill and Grey Coat. Because you literally do, you literally heal more damage than he deals. The only downside is that Grey Coat doesn't actually heal if you do shield damage, which that's the one thing that could make Hoenheim a little tricky if you don't have quite enough damage to break through his shield. The healing of Grey Coat won't do anything, so. Not that it matters that much.
어차피 죽게 생긴 거. 한번 총알 한 발이라도 저것도 머리를 꽂아놓고 죽어야 할 거 아니야.
놀만치 노른 거 같은 게 진짜 싸게 치워불고 들어가자.
We head into Mountain of Corpses, Sea of Blood for the next floor, where we find Late Bloomer's Tattoo, Rags, Grandeur, Curriculum Vitae, Fragment of Friction, and the Charge type gloves, before making it to the Bossigan's Not Heathcliff and Friends. Alright. Not Heathcliff. This fight won't take long. Definitely not the one I want. I mean, obviously, when you take this floor, you kind of hope for the Spiral of Contempt all the time, because without that spiral, it's like all the other fights are possible to get on other floors. But the spiral is only accessible here or in extreme mode, but we're not going to extreme mode.
우리만으로 충분하잖아.
So yeah, pretty easy floor. A little awkward that we couldn't kill Josephine the last turn, but oh well, it doesn't matter. We just win now.
좋아. 이번에는 제대로 들어가.
Or at least I hope we won. Oops, I might have thrown.
맞았는데?
직원들이 전멸했고
말해주시게.
Dang.
이 장면을 똑똑히 기억해 관리자.
좋아요. 지령에게 불확실한 것은 없네. 예측할 수 없게.
And that's why you kill. That is why you go for the Wild Hunt characters. So that the bleed damage doesn't kill you there. Because that is what killed us. If it wasn't for that bleed damage, we wouldn't have gotten staggered, and we would have had enough health to be able to tank it, but... Ah well, I got greedy. And then also the sanity reduction of all the skills also cost us as well. Because since you can't clash, your sanity gets reduced, and then... We missed more than a few coin rolls. Which definitely made it so that we couldn't kill Heathcliff in time. So yeah, not really any more difficult than last time, but this time, yeah, we're not making the same mistake. We're actually killing Linton. Now we can't die, even with the bleed damage. All of the minions are dead now. So now it's a free win.
근데 배 아프지? 말 안 해도 알아서 잘하군. 그래, 그것은 급작에
있는
갖다
힘껏
써야지.
찔러놓고 으깨놨지만
별로 어려울 것도
저것들은 언젠가 다시 재생하겠지.
We head into Yield My Flesh for the next floor, where we find Special Contract, Night Vision Goggles, Midwinter Nightmare, and Artistic Sense, before making it to the boss against Bamboo-Headed Kim. I'm definitely a little... more than a little scared of this fight. I'll say that much. Kim has a lot of bleed. A lot of bleed damage, and that is definitely terrifying. Especially if we lose this clash. But I didn't want to use the other one because I want the... I need the skill... I need the skill 3 for Greycoat healing. Because that bleed is going to hurt. Unironically, I think getting the skill 3 marked by the prescript is the worst thing that could have possibly happened. Can we survive? How much damage is that? We can't clash with this. We can clash with these, though. And then subsequently we can then clash with this as well because of the shield. Like it's 2 and then 3. 1, 2, 3. Which is 39 damage. I think we have 1 HP. I think we end with 1 HP with this bleed damage. Or 9. We had 9 health. Still pretty scary bleed damage. And it's still ticking down. Hopefully that was enough Greycoat healing to survive the turn. Oof. Kim is scary, man. But now that we're in the E.G.O form, it's like the bleed damage is kind of a non-issue at this point. Specifically because like we have a gloom counter skill. And in case you're not aware, a clashable counter does not actually consume any bleed when you use it, when you clash with it. So yeah, if you're ever gonna die to bleed damage but you have a clashable counter, just spam the clashable counter and you'll never die. At least to the bleed damage anyways. So yeah, Kim, scary fight without any bleed support.
있는 힘껏 찔러놓고 으깨놨지만
We head into Refraction Railway, Line 4, Section 4 for the final floor, where we find Wrist Guards, Distant Star, and Fragment of Desire, before making it to the boss against the King in Binds.
얌전히 잠들어 있어야 할 놈들까지
Alright.
눈을 떠버렸네.
Obviously, yeah, as you can clearly see with the amount of damage we're taking, there's no way we can survive this without using an E.G.O. So we'll call upon the power of the Queen.
예측할 수 없게.
She's always here in spirit.
정의보다도 푸른 자요, 사랑보다 붉은 자요. 운명 속에 파묻힌 그대의 이름을 걸고 나 여기서 빛을 맹세한다. 우리 앞을 막는 증오스러운 존재들에게 나와 그대의 힘을 합쳐 위대한 사랑의 힘을 보여줄 것을! 아르카나 슬레이머!
And that's all of the Pecatorum dealt with.
너희들의 사랑의 힘이 빛의 힘이
GG. We instantly win the fight in one turn. Very cool.
이대로면 승리도
Real question though is,
예측할 수 없게.
should we enter demon form? Or should we stay restrained? I think, considering the fact that this is the final fight, and the fact that we basically already unleashed our true potential, we will stay restrained until we need to deal with it. And by that I of course mean until we fight the King in Binds.
딱 반쯤 죽여버려.
Lame.
13조 2항에 맞추려면 그게 제격이지.
These Pecatorum aren't worthy of our true power.
깜짝 놀랐어요.
Only the king is deserving of it.
예측할 수 없게. 필연적. 절대적. 방금 공격. 다음에 다른 빛의 기도 다시 해봐줄래? 영상으로 만들면 다른 직원에게도 도움이 될지도 몰라. 정해진 운명이라네. 그대 흔들렸군. 우와, 사람도 깜짝. 예측할 수 없게. 정해진 운명이라네. 오늘이 방금 뭘 본 것인가? 엄청나게 강한 일격을! 그대! 흔들렸군. 차! 정해진 운명이라네. 정해진 운명 결정. 해금. 초월. 보았는가? 실력은 절대적이라네. 예측할 수 없게.
I don't know, I just find it more fitting that, you know, both the King in Binds and this identity, you know, release their binds at the same time and show their true potential. Pretty fitting ending, if you ask me. I do wish, I do. Like, that is my biggest complaint with this identity, is that it's just... It's too easy for her to enter her demon mode. I personally believe it should have been only accessible when she's in you know, unlock stage 3, not stage 1. But whatever. There's no real problem with it being easier to achieve.
예측할 수 없게 들어갈 수 있겠다. 그치? 운명적인 죽음일세.
자, 앞당 패치 성공! 오늘도 정말 멋진 활약이었어.
이제 다음 시련만 넘어서면 본인 또한 감히 나리의 가족이 될 수 있겠군. 그렇게 된다면 본인은 더 이상 추울 일도 외로울 일도 없을 테지.
And that is how I beat 10 floors of Mirror Dungeon 6 hard using only Index Proxy Don Quixote. She's pretty strong, and being one of the few identities in the game capable of manifesting E.G.O certainly makes her much more unique. She has some pretty steep competition for being the best Don Quixote identity though, but I can certainly see why someone might think that she is. Anyway, that's it for me. Like and subscribe for more videos like this one. Goodbye.